Head over to the Retching Edge if the ash has your clothes polished.
Now let's talk. How about we catch a break?
Fan-fucking-tastic!
What the?
Give up!
Dead bodies always bring scavengers of the 2- and 4-legged kind.
Fight, coward!
I get scared when you're in a fight, or I find it a bit thrilling to watch. Know what I mean? Bit of both, methinks.
These bandits deserve little more than a blade in their spine.
Dior, you must be calm. I'm sure there's a good reason Baldur left us.
Something isn't right, Fenari. I feel it in my bones and I smell it in the air. Baldur wouldn't leave without telling someone.
You shiver from here, love.
Don't worry yourself over
Stay
nothing,
close.
Dior. Do you want
I'll
a
keep
head
you
full of
warm.
grey hairs before you've seen 40 winters?
My son and I gather items to trade with travelers who visit the village.
Baldur could be in danger and you will do nothing. If you won't help me, then I'll ask the Allmaker to send someone else who can. I am in no mood to talk, outsider. One of the Skald has gone missing.
Who's missing?
It is Baldur Ironshaper. As our only smith, Baldur is very important to the village.
Did anything unusual happen around the time of his disappearance?
I do not remember Baldur acting strangely. Although now that you ask, I did see something in the woods on the day he disappeared. I saw 2 elves in the far distance dragging something behind them. Hunters often visit our land, so I thought little of it.
Where were they headed?
South and west. If your road takes you that way, perhaps you could search for any sign of Baldur. The Skald would be grateful.
My mother was Skald, but she left the village and I was born in Skyrim.
Why did your mother leave the village?
A trade ship from Skyrim struck ice off the coast near the village, and the Skald took in the surviving sailors. My mother fell in love with one of the sailors, my father, and eventually returned with him to Skyrim.
Did she ever return here?
Sadly, no. She died in Falkreath, where I was born.
What do you need?
I came across a few of my mother's old things not long ago. Among them was a necklace that my father gave to her when they were married. I believe she would want it placed upon her tombstone in Falkreath, as a symbol of her undying love and the great sacrifice she made for it. If you find yourself in Falkreath, please give this amulet to the priest Runel and tell him that I sent you. He will understand. I don't have much to give in reward, but return to me when the task is done and I'll do what I can. Thank you, Skald friend. Strength and courage be always with you.
Make sure that you save some wood from the pile.
What for?
One of our chairs is about...
My
I
son
came
and
here to
gather
study the
items
history of
to
Solstheim,
visit
but it's the
village.
Skald who intrigue me the most.
How long have you been studying the Skald?
Well, let me think. I suppose it's been nearly a year now. My goodness, how the time has flown.
And the Skald don't mind being studied?
Well, not so far. They think I'm a bit strange, but they seem to tolerate me. In fact, they've been very accommodating, hospitable even. They seem happy to talk about their traditions and history.
I'll keep watch.
Mortal fool! No one hides from the dead! Who dares disturb myself?
If I told you I would feel when you touch me.
Someone lives among the dead.
Shit! I do what I do.
You're giving my arse a headache, you filthy scum!
I will return!
Die already!
Let's finish this.
This will comes for you now. I will return!
He's busted! I've had worse. You won't win this!
There's something near. Seems to me.
You fucking
Who dares disturb my shall feel you only a fool tries to kill the dead. Sick of it. Your shroud knows. Who dares disturb my rest?
fuck off, you wanker! Hell yeah!
Shit. That cold stink of death.
How are you holding up?
It's rough out here, but I'm getting by.
Word is,
I
Ellen
can
went
handle it.
furious.
Just wish there was
Big
more
party
meat
at the
involved.
Thalmor embassy, and one of the guests went someplace they shouldn't. Caused quite a commotion.
What's going on here?
What's going on here is that we've been kicked out of our home. The mead hall, up there on the hill. Some Rieklings have taken
What
it
do you
over.
plan on doing?
What do you mean?
What if you
We're
had
not
one
going to be
extra
lounging
warrior?
around in a hall anymore,
Are you
so you'll
offering
have
to
be a
help?
little more useful.
Some new blood should be enough to rouse these layabouts to actually
I hadn't
fight
really
again.
thought of it. I'm still hoping we can go home.
That sounds like fun.
This is
Well, let's move then.
start living.
Hey, you lazy milk drinkers, get over here. I know you're all starting to settle in here and keep up the fat lives you've got used to up in the hall. But look here, this outsider has more fire than any of you. All I had to do was mention our little infestation, and she volunteered in a second. I don't want to have my spirit outstripped by some wanderer, so let's get up there and kill us some Rieklings.
Bastards.
Fuck with me!
Boot in the arse.
Ah, that was almost exhilarating. How are you feeling?
That was easy.
Good to hear. In fact, that's just the spirit I'll need from my second. Do you want to come with me?
Where are you going?
To Rothmund's Barrow. I need to get his blessing again before we take up residence here. I'll need a witness and, well, you see the kind of horker brains I deal with around here. What do you say?
I'd be honored.
Well, let's not waste time talking about it then.
There's just no bloody end to us, is there?
Oh, gods! I do not. And if you don't like it, fuck off. You fucking cunt.
Ugh! Been tending your hounds? You smell like a wet dog. Are you ready to go inside?
What is this place?
The burial place of Rothmund, who founded Thirsk. He brought a group of true warriors away from the soft life of the Skal to know the wilderness, to feel the sting of cold and of steel. I know that sounds a little silly. It's just the way it's written in the books, and that phrase has always stuck with me.
What's going to happen in there?
It's pretty simple. Rothmund's axe is in there with him. Anyone who attempts to take hold of it has their spirit judged by Rothmund himself.
We're going to fight his ghost?
No, nothing like that. He doesn't need to battle us to know us. He's always watched over Thirsk and sees us from beyond. And in my case, since he's already deemed me worthy, it will just be a matter of him remembering why he blessed me before. Really, all you need to do is watch.
I'm ready.
Let's not waste any time then.
Watch where you step on.
There it is. So I just need to take hold of it.
You seek my blessing for the leadership of Thirsk Hall?
I do. It is I, Bujold. You blessed me in the past, and now I've rid the Hall of Reeklings and returned it to its rightful owners.
And well it is that this has happened. But I have always watched, and know that it was your softness that led to your own exile. You allowed your fellow warriors to grow weak, while the dangers around you mounted.
Then, the leadership is not mine?
No, nor is there any among you fit to serve. For a band in the wilderness, it is better to have no leader than a poor one.
That was a little embarrassing.
What are you going to do now?
The only thing I can do. I need to return to Thirsk. No matter what Rothmund says, we need a leader, and I'm still the best person for that.
You'll go against Hrothmund's wishes?
Look what's happened to us so far under his watchful eye. He gave his blessing to all the leaders who brought us to this point. Anyway, he's dead and we're alive. It's time to begin a new tradition for Thirsk, and I'm going to do that. All I need is for you to back me up. You don't even need to lie. Just don't tell anyone else what you heard here.
I'll keep this quiet.
Good. See that you do. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a hall to lead.
Huh? I won't allow you to ruin years of this plan. Die rather than laugh.
More is ours.
The Ulan matter. Dear Councillor Selden, in a matter of days I believe we'll be ready. Our forces hidden within Ashfallow Citadel have been training night and day, ready to strike when we give the signal. With Captain Veleth distracted by the Ashspawn attacks, the timing seems perfect. I've waited nearly a decade to exact my revenge upon Laeral Morvayn for the death of my ancestor, and I long for the moment my blade will be drawn across his throat. The next letter you receive from me will include his head in a sack. Display it proudly in the halls of House Hlalu, brother. Vendil Ulan.
This is definitely incriminating evidence for this family.
If you find yourself... This may be the frontier, but we've still got rules. Break them, wind up in the prisons.
Did you find any evidence at Severin Manor yet? Then we finally have them. All that remains now is chasing them down and bringing them to justice.
I don't think they'll give up willingly.
Good.
I'm going to send 2 of the best Redoran Guard we have to take them down. I want you to assist them any way you can.
I'll head there immediately.
See that you do. We can't afford to let these traitors slip away. Ashfallow Citadel's been abandoned for a long time. Be ready for anything.
You can go.
I will protect you, Dragonborn! Book Aye! Up yours!
What was that?
I knew it! Time to die! Time to end this!
What was that? Mind's playing trick on me.
Shit, this isn't working.
Straight to the face.
No,
Do your worst.
this isn't over.
You can't win this! Inspire me, or I'll curse you.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Oh yeah, up yours! Bastard!
Hello!
Debella's kiss! I'm not dead yet. Well, bloody done.
It's not my time.
Careful, Miriam.
I'll find you!
Someone's in here with us.
I join you in death, Father.
Where are you? Ha! Found you!
Strong walls and towers. Defensible.
One moment. One moment. You look familiar.
Well, what happened? Were you able to track down Vendel? Out with
He's
it!
no longer a threat.
Then, it's finally over. What of the Reverend Guard I sent to assist you?
Slain by the Morag Tong.
Damn it. I was hoping to protect our people by sending them, not end up with casualties. To think that Vendel would stoop so low as to hire those fetchers. I'm glad you killed him.
I did what had to be done.
Wonderful. Simply wonderful. Councillor Morvain will be quite pleased when he hears about this. Follow me, and I'll take you to the Councillor so you can speak to him yourself. Excuse me, Councillor Morvain. I have some wonderful news.
Adriel, I haven't seen a smile on your face like that in a long time.
This visitor has single-handedly dealt with a threat that could have ended your life. Vendel, Telesue, and Miri Severin weren't who they appeared to be. I'm afraid they were here to avenge Villa Ulen's death.
Vendel? But he's done so much for Raven Rock. How could this be possible?
They did it to gain our confidence, Councillor. They had us all fooled. I should have been more vigilant. I'm sorry.
Don't say that. It's not your fault, old friend. And you, step forward. What you've done for me, for all of Raven Rock, goes far beyond what I would have expected from a traveler to our town. For this, you have my deepest gratitude.
Thank you, Councillor.
Now, I'm certain Adriel was prepared to reward you appropriately for everything you've done. However, since a bit of coin hardly seems like enough, I've decided to provide something more substantial.
Oh?
Since the Severin family, or whoever they were, turned out to be criminals, their property is now forfeit. As Councillor, I hereby award you Severin Manor, and everything contained within. You've earned your citizenship here, and I hope you'll consider staying with us as a member of our community.
I can't thank you enough for reopening the Ebony Mines. You've brought light to the darkness, my friend.
One moment. You look familiar.
One moment.
You are the new owner of this fine manor.
innocent people died. Ralis has to pay for his crimes. See shit. Thank you, love, for saving me.
Master, arise! Master, arise! It is time!
Oh, God. What happened? What have I done?
What's going on here?
I don't remember. Ever since I got here to Kolbjorn, I've heard whispers, voices, thoughts, imaginings. They've only gotten louder since I've stayed. Pounding, driving. A couple of times I blacked out. It was just before the Draugr woke up.
Did you kill the miners?
I don't know. Maybe. It's what he wanted. He just needed their energy. I don't know. I hope I didn't. But maybe I... Please, you have to believe me.
I believe you, just don't come back here.
Of course. I don't even want to hear the word Barrow again. Ever. I'll go to Raven Rock and you won't mention this to anyone. If you see me there, just give a nod and I'll lend you a hand if you need it. It's the least I can do. Just keep this quiet.
Azador! Awaken!
Azura's wisdom to you, friend.
I need you to come with me.
I owe you that much.
It is time! Azador! Awaken! It is time!
You spared Ralis.
Azador!
He was under the spell of that dragon priest.
Azador! Awaken!
Still,
he
lost a lot. A lot.
Master! Arise! Master! Arise!
Black Book, Filament and Filigree.
It is time!
It is time! Azador! Awaken! Azador! Awaken! Master, arise! Azador! Awaken! Master, arise! It is time! Master, arise!
This place feels cursed.
It is time! Master, arise! Azador, awaken! It is time! Master, arise! Azador, awaken! Master, arise! It is... Azador!
Talk to Captain Gallery if you're looking to book passage.
Azador! Awaken! Master, arise! It is time! Azador! Awaken! Azador! Awaken! Master, arise!
A well-placed word or a well-placed dagger, both can achieve equal purposes.
Yes, Sirrah?
I need you to do something.
Just let me know what needs doing. Azador! Awaken! Azador! Awaken! It is time!
Do you wish to test yourself against me?
Azador! Awaken! It is time! It is time! It is time! Azador! Awaken!
Oh, nasty way to go.
It is time! Azador! Awaken! It is time! It is time! It is time! Master!
Ugh. Wearing flesh is so distasteful. You have caught my attention, mortal. That is most unwise. Tell me, why have you slain this one who trusted you here upon my shrine?
My reasons are my own.
Indeed. But I abide only those whose will is aligned to my own. Those who oppose my desires perish in the most dreadful of ways.
I'm not afraid of you.
Is that so? You should be. Though a heart without fear is something I can use. Perhaps you are the one I seek. We shall soon find out. Listen, all of you!
It is time! Master, arise!
Well-placed word or a well-placed dagger,
test yourself
both
against
can
me?
achieve equal purposes.
It is time! It is time!
Here we go.
Master, arise!
We're Ralis!
Master, arise! Awaken!
Enough! No more! I yield!
Try
to end
this! Awaken!
Right off.
It is time! It is time!
No more! I yield! No more! I yield! I yield!
You can't beat me! You're gonna pay!
Mercy!
Sirrah, Mafala Cloaky.
Azador! Awaken! Azador!
If death is what you seek, I'm happy to oblige.
Well done. You have proven the strength of your will and your tongue's gift for lies. You have shown ferocity and prowess in combat. Now the time has come for a final proving. Are you able to cast aside your honor and strike with the hidden blade?
Honor is a coward's tool.
An astute observation. Skyrim is a beautiful and harsh mistress, but her people cling to such a petty notion of honor. My previous champion displeases me. It is time he is replaced, in the traditional fashion.
Where can I find him?
You will find him holed up at Knife Point Ridge, where he plays king to bandits and highwaymen.
Who is he?
I am loath to utter his name. One cannot erase a thing if it has a name to be remembered.
Say no more. He's as good as dead.
Kill every single member of his band. Do so as silently and invisibly as you can, for this is not about you. You are to be my instrument in this. Slay him in the coldest of blood. Do not give him the dignity of defending himself. Once his corpse lays cold upon the ground, and all trace of his followers erased, retrieve my ebony mail, a gift fit only for my true champion.
Your will carve itself upon the world.
You know, Hawk is...
Note about missing treasure. The single richest treasure trove in all of Solstheim, they said. Ha! Looks like this place was cleaned out centuries ago. So my pickaxe ain't even good enough to chip it. Still, I can't shake the feeling that there's something I'm missing. There's an odd draft in this room. Secret passage, maybe? I've locked myself in until these bandits are good and gone. I suppose I'll keep looking. Not much else I can do.
The Journal of Ralis Sedarys, Volume 23, by Ralis Sedarys. Lord Azadal demands more blood, and I give it willingly. The hired men have somewhat pitiful souls, so it sometimes takes several of them to achieve the desired effects. I won't be writing any more. There is no need. The time has come to awaken the Master, and bring him to the fate he deserves. The Art of War Magic, by Zoran Arctis, with commentary by other learned masters. Mastering the Art of Winning. Chapter 3, Dispositions. Master Arctis said, "The moment to prepare your offense is the moment the enemy becomes vulnerable to attack." Laris Shale. Knowledge of the enemy mage's mind is of the foremost importance. Once you know his mind, you will know his weakness. Said Mar. Master Arctis advised Tiber Septim, before the Battle of Five Bridges, not to commit his reserves until the enemy was victorious. And Tiber Septim said, "If the enemy is already victorious, what use committing the reserve?" To which Master Arctis replied, Only in victory will the enemy be vulnerable to defeat. Tiber Septim went on to rout an enemy army twice the size of his. The enemy's vulnerability may be his strongest point. Your weakness may enable you to strike the decisive blow. Marandro In the wars between the Nords and the Chimere, the Nord shamans invariably used their mastery of the winds to call down storms before battle to confuse and dismay the Chimere warriors. One day, a clever Chimere sorcerer conjured up an ice demon and commanded him to hide in the rocks near the rear of the Chimere army. When the Nords called down the storms as usual, the Chimere warriors began to waver, but the ice demon rose up as the storm struck, and the Chimere turned in fear from what they believed was a Nord demon and charged into the enemy line, less afraid of the storm than of the demon. The Nords, expecting the Chimere to flee as usual, were caught off guard when the Chimere attacked out of the midst of the storm. The Chimere were victorious that day. When planning a campaign, take account of both the arcane and the mundane. The skillful battle mage ensures that they are in balance. A weight lifted by one hand is heavier than two weights lifted by both hands. When the arcane and mundane are in balance, the army will move effortlessly, like a swinging door on well-oiled hinges. When they are out of balance, the army will be like a three-legged dog, with one leg always dragging in the dust. Thus, when the army strikes a blow, it will be like a thunderclap out of a cloudless sky. The best victories are those unforeseen by the enemy, but obvious to everyone afterwards. The skillful battle mage ensures that the enemy is already defeated before the battle begins. A close-fought battle is to be avoided. The fortunes of war may turn aside the most powerful sorcery, and courage may undo the best-laid plans. Instead, win your victory ahead of time. When the enemy knows he is defeated before the battle begins, you may not need to fight. Victory in battle is only the least kind of victory. Victory without battle is the acme of skill. Conserving your power is another key to victory. Putting forth your strength to win a battle is no demonstration of skill. This is what we call tactics, the least form of the art of war magic. Soladin dur Tharkun. By tactics, Master Arcanus includes all the common battle magics. These are only the first steps in an understanding of war magic. Any hedge mage can burn up his enemies with fire. Destroying the enemy is the last resort of the skillful battle mage. The battle is only a leaf on the tree. If a leaf falls, does the tree die? But when a branch is lopped off, the tree is weakened. When the trunk is girdled, the tree is doomed. If you plan your dispositions well, your victories will seem easy, and you will win no acclaim. If you plan your dispositions poorly, your victories will seem difficult, and your fame will be widespread. Marandro Sull. Those commonly believed to be the greatest practitioners of war magic are almost always those with the least skill. The true masters are not known to the multitude.
By Wogynyar. My great-great-uncle was a warder at an asylum in Torval. Maybe he was my great-great-great-uncle. It was quite a long time ago. And this is the story that's been passed down in my family from his generation to mine. Perhaps it is purely apocryphal, but when I was told it, it was whispered in such a way that it was meant to be taken seriously. Not having any children of my own to whisper to, and being in need of some gold, I have elected to publish my story. The asylum my great-great-uncle worked in was apparently very posh. Only the right class of lunatics were admitted. Eccentric dukes, mad baronesses, touched lords, and daft ladies filled the asylum's tapestried and gilded halls. Still, it was a time of great excitement when the rumor began that the unhinged Emperor of Tamriel, Pelagius III, was transferring there from a resort in Valenwood. When the rumor became a reality, the asylum went into nice, calm, restive chaos. Pelagius was given an entire wing of the asylum for his own use, for though he was madder than a jackal, it was still his terrible majesty, the Emperor of Tamriel. The Emperor was remarkably well behaved, my great-great-uncle supposedly asserted. Of course, he did not have to face the commoners, who came on all sorts of pretenses to gawk at their overlord, the loon. When one of the warders, not, I have been assured, my uncle, forgot himself and let his terrible majesty know that people had been there to see him, the Emperor grew very excited. He made up his mind right then and there to have a ball, a huge party with musicians, dancing, and dinner, right at the lunatic asylum, or precisely in his wing of the asylum. Rumors of the Emperor's interest in holding a ball spread throughout Torval, and eventually it reached the ears of the Empress Regent Kataria, Pelagius's dear wife, in the imperial city. Eager to make her husband happy, she sent a caravan laden with gold to the asylum so a ball might be held, befitting the imperial dignity. The emperor picked a date for the ball, and preparations began immediately. The old asylum walls were beautifully decorated, but needed cleaning. A pit had to be constructed to house the orchestra. Servants for cooking and serving the food had to be hired. Gold and ebony candelabra and matching chandeliers were ordered. The old rugs were destroyed, and new rugs embroidered with gems were woven. Lists of guests had to be compiled, reconsidered, and recompiled. The emperor knew that the guest list had to be very exclusive, and he relied on his advisors to tell him who was alive, who was dead, and who was imaginary. The party was set to begin at 9 o'clock. At 6, the hairdresser he had hired from Torval finished his imperial coiffure. At 7, he was fully dressed in the robes he had ordered for the ball, voluminous black silk and piled velvet crusted with red diamonds. At 8, he walked down the newly reconstructed staircase to supervise the final preparations, the lighting of the candles, the opening of the wine, the murder of the first course. At 9 o'clock he took his seat at the facsimile throne he had ordered, and awaited the first guests. At 9:30 his adviser, seeing the royal eyes beginning to glaze over with madness, said, "Your terrible majesty surely knows that it is not fashionable to arrive at any hall for at least an hour after the desired time, yes?" The emperor just stared. At 10:30 the emperor called for some food and wine, and sat in his throne, looking at the open door, eating. 30 minutes later he ordered the orchestra to begin playing. For the next 3 hours they played gaily for the empty, candlelit ballroom. At 1 o'clock the emperor announced his intention to retire for the evening. My uncle was one of the warders who assisted his terrible majesty up the staircase. Halfway to his room, Pelagius threw himself on the floor in hysteria, screaming and laughing, ordering more wine. My mother was good at this part of the story, rolling her eyes and shrieking, "More wine! More wine! Wine!" and in short, imagining that he was possessed by all the revellers at his party that never was. 2 days later he was still not better. He had cut himself, and those who tried to grapple him horribly, with the red diamonds of his robe. Eventually it was decided that the Torval Asylum was not equipped to deal with a lunatic of his severity, and he was sent to a more secure location in Blackmarsh. It was only 3 months later my uncle heard that the emperor had died. One of my uncle's duties was to clear out the personal property of the inmates after their death. Being primarily landed nobility, the personal property was often quite extensive. Several years after the asylum ball, my uncle was called to clear out the apartment of a duchess whose chief eccentricity was a propensity to pilfer. Kleptomania, I believe it's called, locked away in a secret door in her desk, protected by a trap armed with a barbed needle, was a variety of jewels, piles of gold, and 5 large stacks of beautifully engraved invitations, signed in the emperor's childlike handwriting. The Balladier's Faithbook. This portfolio contains the lyrics to many popular Western drinking songs, including, among others, Bold Admiral Richton, The Golden Grove, The 12-Night Drunk, Island Lads Down from the Mountain, Beans, Bloody Beans, Olga's Wicket, Black Freitas, The Imperial Volunteer, Down by the Ginger Garden, Roll, Britannia, Roll, The Isle of Somerset, Dark-Blooded Foes, Dawn and Dusk, Farewell to Colovia, Wind and Rain, Green and Gracious Land, The Jolly Archer, Sorrow Waters, Ink it, Hink it, Pilgrim on the Road, I'm Glad I'm Not No Orc.
A Dance in Fire, Chapter 7, by Wageen Yarth. Chapter 7 of A Clerk's Adventures in Valenwood. Scene, Sylvanar, Valenwood. Date, 13 Sun's Dusk, 3rd Era, 397. The banquet at the Palace of the Sylvanar was well attended by every jealous bureaucrat and trader who had attempted to contract the rebuilding of Valenwood. They looked on Decimus Scotti, Leodes Eurus, and Basseth with undisguised hatred. It made Scotti very uncomfortable, but Eurus delighted in it. As the servants brought in platter after platter of roasted meats, Eurus poured himself a cup of jaga and toasted the clerk.
I can confess it now, said Eurus. I had grave doubts about inviting you to join me on this adventure. All the other clerks and agents of building commissions I contacted were more outwardly aggressive, but none of them made it through, let alone to the audience chamber of the Sylvanar, let alone brokered the deals on their own like you did. Come, have a cup of Jaga with me. No thank you, said Scotty. I had too much of that drug in Falinesti, and nearly got sucked dry by a giant tick because of it. I'll find something else to drink. Scotty wandered about the hall until he saw some diplomats drinking mugs of a steaming brown liquid, poured from a large silver urn. He asked them if it was tea. Tea made from leaves, scoffed the first diplomat. Not in Valenwood. This is rotmeth. Scotty poured himself a mug and took a tentative sip. It was gamey, bitter and sugared, and very salty. At first, it seemed very disagreeable to his palate, but a moment later, he found he had drained the mug and was pouring another. His body tingled. All the sounds in the chamber seemed oddly disjointed, but not frighteningly so. So, you're the fellow who got the Sylvanar to sign all those contracts, said the second diplomat. That must have required some deep negotiation. Not at all, not at all. Just a little basic understanding, mercantile trading, grinned Scotty, pouring himself a third mug of rotmeth. The Sylvanar was very eager to involve the Imperial State with the affairs of Valenwood. I was very eager to take a percentage of the commission. With all that blessed eagerness, it was merely a matter of putting quill to contract. Bless you. You have been in the employ of His Imperial Majesty very long? Asked the first diplomat. It's a bite, or rather, a bit more complicated than that in the Imperial City. Between you and me, I don't really have a job. I used to work for Lord Atreus and his building commission, but I got sacked. And then, the contracts are from Lord Vanek and his building commission, because I got him from this fellow Reglius, who is a competitor, but still a very fine fellow, until he was made dead by those Khajiit. Scotty drained his fifth mug. When I go back to the Imperial City, then the real negotiations can begin, bless you. I can go to my old employer and to Lord Vanek and say, look here, you, which one of you wants these commissions? And they'll fall all over each other to take them from me. It will be bidding war for my percentage, the likes of which no one nowhere has never seen. So you're not a representative of His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor? Asked the first diplomat. Didn't you hear what I'm said, you stupid? Scotty felt a surge of rage, which quickly subsided. He chuckled and poured himself a seventh mug. The building commissions are privately owned, but they're still representatives of the Emperor. So I'm a representative of the Emperor, or I will be, when I get these contracts in. It's very complicated. I can understand why you're not following me. Bless you. It's all like the poet said, a dance in fire, if you follow the illusion, that is to say, illusion. And your colleagues? Are they representatives of the Emperor? Asked the second diplomat. Scotty burst into laughter, shaking his head. The diplomats bade him their respects and went to talk to the minister. Scotty stumbled out of the palace and reeled through the strange organic avenues and boulevards of the city. It took him several hours to find his way to Perthala Hall and his room. Once there, he slept, very nearly on his bed. The next morning, he woke to Eurus and Basseth in his room, shaking him. He felt half asleep and unable to open his eyes fully, but otherwise fine. The conversation with the diplomats floated in his mind like a haze, like an obscure childhood memory. What in Mare's name is rotmeth? He asked quickly. Rancid, strong fermented meat juices, with lots of spices to kill the poisons, smiled Basseth. I should have warned you to stay with Jaga. You must understand the meat mandate by now, laughed Eurus. These Bosmeri would rather eat each other than touch the fruit of the vine or the field. What did I say to those diplomats? Cried Scotty, panicking. Nothing bad, apparently, said Eurus, pulling out some papers. Your escorts are downstairs to bring you to the Imperial Province. Here are your papers of safe passage. The Sylvanar seems very impatient about business proceeding forward rapidly. He promises to send you some sort of rare treasure when the contracts are fulfilled. See, he's already given me something. Eurus showed off his new, bejeweled earring, a beautiful, large, faceted ruby. Basseth showed that he had a similar one. The two fat fellows left the room so Scotty could dress and pack. A full regiment of the Sylvanar's guards was on the street in front of the tavern. They surrounded a carriage crested with the official arms of Valenwood. Still dazed, Scotty climbed in, and the captain of the guard gave the signal. They began a quick gallop. Scotty shook himself and then peered behind. Basseth and Eurus were waving him goodbye. Wait, Scotty cried. Aren't you coming back to the Imperial Province too? The Sylvanar asked that we stay behind as Imperial representatives, yelled Laides Eurus, in case there's a need for more contracts and negotiations.
He's appointed us underape, some sort of special honor for foreigners at court. Don't worry, lots of banquets to attend. You can handle the negotiations with Vanek and Atreus yourself, and we'll keep things settled here. Yoris continued to yell advice about business, but his voice became indistinct with distance. Soon it disappeared altogether as the convoy rounded the streets of Silvenar. The jungle loomed suddenly, and then they were in it. Scotty had only gone through it by foot or along the rivers by slow-moving boats. Now it flashed all around him in profusions of green. The horses seemed even faster moving through underbrush than on the smooth paths of the city. None of the weird sounds or dank smells of the jungle penetrated the escort. It felt to Scotty as if he were watching a play about the jungle with a background of a quick-moving scrim, which offered only the merest suggestion of the place. So it went for 2 weeks. There was lots of food and water in the carriage with the clerk, so he merely ate and slept as the caravan pressed endlessly on. From time to time, he'd hear the sound of blades clashing, but when he looked around, whatever had attacked the caravan had long since been left behind. At last, they reached the border, where an imperial garrison was stationed. Scotty presented the soldiers who met the carriage with the papers. They asked him a barrage of questions that he answered monosyllabically, and then let him pass. It took several more days to arrive at the gates of the imperial city. The horses that had flown so fast through the jungle now slowed down in the unfamiliar territory of the wooded Kolbjorn estates. By contrast, the cries of his province's birds and smells of his province's plant life brought Decimus Scotty alive. It was as if he had been dreaming all the past months. At the gates of the city, Scotty's carriage door was opened for him, and he stepped out on uncertain legs. Before he had a moment to say something to the escort, they had vanished, galloping back south through the forest. The first thing he did now that he was at home was go to the closest tavern and have tea and fruit and bread. If he never ate meat again, he told himself, that would suit him very nicely. Negotiations with Lord Atreus and Lord Vanek proceeded immediately thereafter. It was most agreeable. Both commissions recognized how lucrative the rebuilding of Valenwood would be for their agency. Lord Vanek claimed, quite justifiably, that as the contracts had been written on forms notarized by his commission, he had the legal right to them. Lord Atreus claimed that Decimus Scotty was his agent and representative, and that he had never been released from employment. The Emperor was called to arbitrate, but he claimed to be unavailable. His advisor, the Imperial battle mage Jaeger Tharn, had disappeared long ago, and could not be called on for his wisdom and impartial mediation. Scotty lived very comfortably off the bribes from Lord Atreus and Lord Vanek. Every week, a letter would arrive from Eurus or Basseth asking about the status of negotiations. Gradually, these letters ceased coming, and more urgent ones came from the Minister of Trade and the Silvenar himself. The War of the Blue Divide with the Somerset Isle ended with the Altmeri winning several new coastal islands from the Wood Elves. The war with Elsewhere continued, ravaging the eastern borders of Valenwood. Still, Vanek and Atreus fought over who would help. One fine morning in the early spring of the year Third Era 398, a courier arrived at Decimus Scotty's door. Lord Vanek has won the Valenwood Commission, and requests that you and the contracts come to his hall at your earliest convenience. Has Lord Atreus decided not to challenge further? Asked Scotty. He's been unable to, having died very suddenly, just now, from a terribly unfortunate accident, said the courier. Scotty had wondered how long it would be before the Dark Brotherhood was brought in for final negotiations. As he walked toward Lord Vanek's building commission, a long, severe piece of architecture on a minor but respectable plaza, he wondered if he had played the game as he ought to have. Could Vanek be so rapacious as to offer him a lower percentage of the commission now that his chief competitor was dead? Thankfully, he discovered, Lord Vanek had already decided to pay Scotty what he had proposed during the heat of the winter negotiations. His advisors had explained to him that other, lesser building commissions might come forward unless the matter were handled quickly and fairly. "Glad we have all the legal issues done with," said Lord Vanek fondly. "Now we can get to the business of helping the poor Bosmeri, and collecting the profits. It's a pity you weren't our representative for all the troubles with Vendermark and the Arnesian business. But there will be plenty of more wars, I'm sure of that." Scotty and Lord Vanek sent word to the Silvenar that at last they were prepared to honor the contracts. A few weeks later, they held a banquet in honor of the profitable enterprise. Decimus Scotty was the darling of the imperial city, and no expense was spared to make it an unforgettable evening. As Scotty met the nobles and wealthy merchants who would be benefiting from his business dealings, an exotic but somehow faintly familiar smell rose in the ballroom. He traced it to its source, a thick roasted slab of meat, so long and thick it covered several platters. The Cyrodiilic revelers were eating it ravenously, unable to find the words to express their delight at its taste and texture. It's like nothing I've ever had before. It's like pig-fed venison. Do you see the marbling of fat and meat? It's a masterpiece. Scotty went to take a slice, but then he saw something embedded deep in the dried and rendered roast. He nearly collided with his new employer, Lord Vanek, as he stumbled back. Where did this come from? Scotty stammered. From our client, the Sylvanar, beamed his lordship. It's some kind of local delicacy they call Untharappa. Scotty vomited and did not stop for some time. It cast rather a temporary pall on the evening, but when Decimus Scotty was carried off to his manor house, the guests continued to dine. The Untharappa was the delight of all, even more so when Lord Vanek himself took a slice and found the first of 2 rubies buried within. How very clever of the Bosmer to invent such a dish, the Cyrodiils agreed.
Lives of the Saints by Tribunal Temple, listing and describing prominent saints of the Dunmer. If you would be wise, model your lives on the lives of the saints. If you would learn valor, follow Saint Nerevar the Captain, patron of warriors and statesmen. Lord Nerevar helped to unite the barbarian Dunmer tribes into a great nation, culminating in his martyrdom when leading the Dunmer to victory against the evil Dwemer and the traitorous House Dagoth in the Battle of Red Mountain. If you would learn daring, follow Saint Veloth the Pilgrim, patron of outcasts and spiritual seekers. Saint Veloth, prophet and mystic, led the Dunmer out of the decadent home country of the Somerset Isles and into the promised land of Morrowind. Saint Veloth also taught the difference between the good and the bad Daedra, and won the aid of the good Daedra for his people, while teaching how to carefully negotiate with the bad Daedra. If you would learn generosity, follow Saint Rilms the Barefooted, patron of pilgrims and beggars. Saint Rilms gave away her shoes, then dressed and appeared as a beggar to better acquaint herself with the poor. If you would learn self-respect and respect for others, follow Saint Arelar the Penitent, patron of tanners and miners. This foul criminal repented his sins and traveled the circuit of the great pilgrimages on his knees. If you would learn mercy and its fruits, follow Saint Saren the Merciful, patron of brewers, bakers, and distillers. This pure virgin of modest aspect could heal all diseases at the price of taking the disease upon herself. Tough-minded and fearless, she took on the burdens of others and bore those burdens to an honored old age. If you would learn fierce justice, follow Saint Felms the Bold, patron of butchers and fishmongers. This brave warlord slew the Nord invaders and drove them from our lands. He could neither read nor write, receiving inspiration directly from the lips of Amsivi. If you would learn pride of race and tribe, follow Saint Roris the Martyr, patron of furnishers and caravanners. Captured by Argonians just before the Arnesian War, Roris proudly refused to renounce the tribunal faith and withstood the cruel tortures of Argonian sorcerers. Vengeance and justice for the martyred Saint Roris was the rallying cry of the Arnesian War. If you would learn the rule of law and justice, follow Saint Ohms the Just, patron of chandlers and clerks. Founder of the Ordinators, St. Ohms conceived and articulated the fundamental principles of testing, ordeal, and repentance. If you would learn benevolence, follow St. Delon the Wise, patron of potters and glassmakers. St. Delon was head of House Indaril, a skilled lawyer and author of many learned treatises on tribunal law and custom. If you would learn the love of peace, follow St. Maris the Peacemaker, patron of farmers and laborers. As a little girl, St. Maris showed healing gifts and trained as a healer. She ended a long and bloody house war, intervening on the battlefield in her white robe to heal warriors and spellcrafters without regard to faction. The troops of all houses adopted white robes as her standard and refused to shed the blood of their brethren. If you would learn reverence, follow St. Lothus the Pious, patron of tailors and dyers. Contemporary and companion of the tribunal, and the best-loved Alma Rula of the tribunal temple, he formulated the central rituals and principles of the new temple faith. St. Lothus is the symbolic mortal bridge between the gods and the faithful, and the archetypal priest.
Ah, it's so nice to be home with the kids.
Greetings, Archmage. May I help you, Archmage?
I heard this is where I might find some books about the Snow Elven Exodus.
I don't know who told you that. What we do have are plenty of books. Take a look around. I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for. If not, let me know. I might have it stored away.
The Eye of Magnus, here but lost. Slipped through our grasp. Oh, what we might have learned.
Your focal points have been cleansed.
Yes, they have. I can feel the difference already. But, of course, I'm far more in tune with these sorts of things than most. Thank you. I appreciate your assistance.
What else is there to be learned about illusion magic?
You have gone beyond my teachings, which is quite a feat. I did not think it possible. But there is always more to learn. I believe you are ready for the next step.
What's the next step?
Knowledge of truly powerful illusion spells is here at the college, but it is hidden from those who might misuse it. I shall teach you a spell to discern things hidden from others. With it, you will be able to acquire the texts you need. Bring all 4 to me, and I shall use them to inscribe the spells for you. All right, then.
And you smell like... in the air.
We all have you to thank for saving the college. Your position is well deserved.
Thunderstorm.
I'd like training in destruction magic.
I can teach you, but I won't be held responsible for what you do with the knowledge.
What else is there to be learned about destruction magic?
I dare say you've learned all I can teach you. But that doesn't mean there isn't more out there.
What do you mean?
Over the years, I've heard things. Powerful magics lost to the ages, incredible spells that only the most skilled mages can master. This is the only thing I've ever found. I think it's better off in your hands.
Is there any advice you can give about destruction spells?
Certainly. Destruction spells come in different forms, each useful for various purposes. Concentration spells can be cast immediately, though they're weaker. Good for a tight spot and less costly if you miss. You'll also need to decide whether to devote yourself to a single type of spell. Focusing solely on flame spells will make them more powerful, but you may find yourself at a disadvantage against foes immune to fire.
You consider restoration a valid school of magic, worthy of study, don't you? Don't you?
Of course it's valid.
Good, good. Not that I require validation, of course. There are just some, and I shan't name names, who would disagree. It can make life difficult when one's colleagues fail to recognize the research one engages in.
So you're treated badly because of your work?
Well, no, not really. Not directly, I mean. But I know things are being said behind my back. Conversations cease when I enter rooms. I'm quite aware of what's going on here, and I will not stand for it.
What else is there to be learned about restoration magic?
Look at you. Such a devoted student of restoration. It's comforting to see that not everyone has dismissed it as entirely as most members of the college. Truly comforting. It looks like you're ready to speak with the Augur.
What does the Augur have to do with this?
Oh, didn't you know? The Augur was a brilliant mage, truly inspired, mastered spells others could barely comprehend. He was especially gifted when it came to restoration. He's very particular about who shares the knowledge. So you'll need his approval first. Go on, go talk to him. I'm sure he's been paying attention, and will be expecting you. Until next time.
There are few places where one can pursue my type of work without fear of persecution. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Interesting book on the Dwemer. Marital aids. Rudensen I has Hedeke. Scholar. Now, with the third and final volume of our series, gentle reader, we may begin discussion of the practical applications of what we've learned thus far. I strongly recommend that serious students of this topic conduct their own personal field research. You quickly surmise that there will not be anything useful in this book. Unique book about the Dwemer. That wasn't very funny. A Compendium of Dwemer Jokes by Eagle Carrot Top Rummel, Scholar. This volume is inspired by my previous research excavating the numerous Dwemer outhouses dotted throughout Tamriel. I think any disciplined scholar would recognize that the discarded tablets and scrawled epitaphs found in those places must, in fact, be the Dwemer equivalent of humor. Here's an example of a saying scratched onto the wall of a Dwemer toilet closet found near the ruins of Nizulft. A rough translation of this would be, so-and-so's mother, not his proper mother, but the one that was slightly less proper, is indeed more proper than his proper mother. As you can see, the Dwemer's sense of humor leaves much to be desired. What follows is the translation of 842 Dwemer sayings I've collected over the years from ruined outhouses. You are fairly certain there's nothing in this book that would be useful. Rare book concerning the Dwemer. This is awful. A Compendium of Dwemer Recipes by Eggle, Another Dash of Brandy, Grummel, Scholar. Bungo Slop. 1 clump of glowing mushrooms, 1 dash of brandy, 1 dash of brandy, 1 dash of brandy, 1 dash of brandy, 1 dash of brandy. The first recipe carries on like this for several more pages. You flip through a few more pages and notice that all the recipes in the book seem to require what must be about a half a bottle of brandy. Who knew that the Dwemer was so fond of brandy? In any case, you determine that there will not be anything useful in this book.
May I help you, Archmage?
Have you made any progress translating Shalador's work?
We were able to figure out the last text you brought in. I thought the least I could do is pass the knowledge along. All right, then.
library. I would definitely like to spend some time in here.
Archmage or not, my rules about books still stand. All this knowledge might have been lost were it not for you.
Urag, I wasn't able to find anything useful. Could you please just help me out?
All right. I'll bring everything we have on them. How about this? I don't care if you wrote it yourself. If you want a book from here, you go through me.
I'm sorry, there didn't seem to be anything relevant in that one. Anything else?
Okay, got another one for you.
The Falmer, a Study. By Ursa Uthrax. I've studied and traveled and explored and observed, and my hypothesis has finally been confirmed, that the twisted Falmer that inhabit the darkest of depths of Skyrim are indeed the Snow Elves of legend. No one really knows when the story of the Snow Elves began, but the ancient work Fall of the Snow Prince, which is an account of the Battle of the Most-Ring, as transcribed by Lokheim, chronicler to the chieftain Ingjaldur White-Eye, gives a rather vivid account of its ending. According to this eyewitness account, the great Falmer leader known only as the Snow Prince died in glorious battle, and was buried with honor by his Nord slayers. The remaining Snow Elves were scattered or slain, and were never heard from again, or so many thought. But where the story of the ancient Snow Elves ends, that of the current-day Falmer begins, for when the Snow Elf host was shattered on that fateful day, it did not simply disperse, it descended into the earth deep underground, where the Falmer sought sanctuary in the most unlikely of places, Blackreach, far beneath the surface of Skyrim, in the legendary realm of the Dwemer themselves. Yes, Blackreach exists. I have been there, and unlike most of those who have witnessed its terrible glories, I have returned, and I now know the truth about the Falmer. After their defeat by the Nords, the dwarves of old agreed to protect the Falmer, but at a terrible price. For these Dwemer did not trust their Snow Elf guests, and forced them to consume the toxic fungi that once grew deep underground. As a result, the Snow Elves were rendered blind. Soon the majestic Snow Elves were rendered powerless. They became the dwarves' servants, and then their slaves. But the Dwemer's treachery was so deep, so complete, that they made the fungi an essential part of the Falmer's diet. This guaranteed the weakness of not only their current Falmer thralls, but their offspring as well. Snow Elves, for time eternal, would be blind. But, as is always the story with slaves and their masters, the Falmer eventually rebelled. Generations after they first sought solace among the dwarves and experienced bitter betrayal, the Falmer rose up against their oppressors. They overthrew the dwarves and fled even further down into Blackreach's deepest, most hidden reaches. For decade upon decade, the two sides waged a bitter conflict, the full-fledged and bloody War of the Crag that raged deep below Skyrim's surface, completely unbeknownst to the Nords above, a war whose battles and heroes must forever remain lost to our knowledge. Until one day, the war ended. For on that day, the Falmer went to meet their Dwemer foes in battle, only to find that the entire race had vanished. Finally, free from the threat of their Dwemer overlords, the Falmer were able to spread freely throughout Blackreach. But years of fighting the dwarves had left them bloodthirsty and brutal. Feeling the need to conquer, to kill, they began mounting raids to the surface world. And so the legends began, of small, blind, goblin-like creatures who would rise from the cracks of the earth in the dead of night to slaughter cattle, attack lonely travelers, and steal sleeping babes from their cribs. In recent years, however, the sightings of these creatures have become more and more frequent, their raids more organized, their attacks more brutal. In fact, one might even come to the conclusion that the Falmer are ready to change once again. Could it be true? Are the Snow Elves of ages past ready to reclaim their long-forgotten glory? Are they ready to surge to the surface and make war upon the Light Dwellers? If that happens, if the Falmer are indeed planning on reconquering Skyrim, I fear a horror neither man nor gods could possibly stand against.
The Arcanium is always accepting new volumes. I'll take what I can get.
That one didn't seem to have anything either. I hate to ask, but...
Was there something specific you needed?
As I said before, a book that includes information about Falmer Exodus refugees...
Hold on there. I just remembered something. A group of mages took a number of books...
The Synod. A few months back, the Synod showed up here. They inquired about the ruins of Mizulft, but that's all I remember. There's a chance they might be in Mizulft yet.
Of course. I think one of those volumes may have had some relevant information. Check it out, but be careful.
Divine smile on you, friend.
Have you considered joining the college? I teach destruction, and I'd be happy to train you. Well, if you change your mind, you know where to find me.
More experiments are making these mages hide from the world.
The Eye of Magnus, here but lost. Slipped through our grasp. Oh, what we might have learned.
There are few places where one can pursue my type of work without fear of persecution. That incident in Morthal was just a misunderstanding, no matter what the guards had.
Good riddance.
Once again, you have come seeking something. The circumstances differ. This time, I have what you seek. Are you prepared?
Prepared for what?
Colette has already told you. You must be tested before knowledge can be imparted to you. You will rely on your skill as a mage, not on your belongings, not on your scrolls and potions. Only what lies within. Survive, and you are worthy. This is the test put before you. Will you accept?
I'm ready for your test.
Step into the light, and your test begins.
Someone ill among the dead. You do this the hard way? Fine. You can go to hell. You're not gonna like how this ends. Soon.
Stop!
Show the sign of my gift. Or I find it a bit thrilling to watch. Know what I mean?
More than that, kill me.
Hello.
Die. Is that all you can do? Is that all you can kill me? Is that all you can do? For the Isles.
There are few places where one can pursue my type of work without fear.
The Eye of Magnus, here but lost. Slipped through our grasp. Oh, what we might have learned.
Here are the texts you requested.
Yes, very good. Here then is the first of the illusion spells you sought. Mm-hmm.
Tackled the Draven last week.
Mind your step.
Not bad.
Listen,
Reminds
this
me
is
when I first started.
Good job.
Now that's what I call master crafting. Shame it's here and not on display in Arendelle.
Ah, it's so nice to be home with the kids.
Oh, I wonder how long the father's going. Debris here. He comes to collect us. I don't know how many days of release.
Been a pretty good day.
Oh, you're here.
Find out anything.
Ah, my friend. Yes, I have some news for you. The shard you carry does in fact appear to be one from the shattered Amulet of Kings, and I have discovered that the other fragments are quite possibly here in Skyrim. The Guardians of the Shard believe that the Dragonfire could remake the amulet, and must be converging here to seek the aid of a dragon. They may not even be aware that they are being hunted, like this Byron fellow who found you. Perhaps you should find them to warn them. I would probably advise starting your search at High Hrothgar, as they seem to be a central authority on dragon lore.
Someone was leaving trash around.
The
Don't
Hall
worry.
of Naturals.
Fire and Darkness by Near Gorming, the history of the Morag Tong Assassin Guild. Brother, I still call you brother, for we share our bonds of blood, tested but unbroken by hatred. Even if I am murdered, which seems inevitable now, know that, brother, you and I are not innocents. So our benedictions of mutual enmity is not tragedy, but horror. This state of silent, shadowed war, of secret poisons, and sleeping men strangled in their beds, of the sudden arrow and the artful dagger, has no end that I can see, no possibility for peace. I see the shadows in the room move through the flame of my candle as steady. I know the signs that This note was found where it had fallen between the floorboards of an abandoned house in the Nordic village of Jotunheim in the 358th year of the Second Era. It was said that a quiet cobbler lived in the house, whispered by some to be a member of the dread Morag Tong, the Assassin's Guild outlawed throughout Tamriel 34 years previously. The house itself was perfectly in order, as if the cobbler had simply vanished. There was a single drop of blood on the note. The Dark Brotherhood had paid a call. This note, and others like it, are rare. Both the Morag Tong and its hated child, the Dark Brotherhood, are scrupulous about leaving no evidence behind. Their members know that to divulge secrets of their orders is a lethal infraction. This obviously makes the job of the historian seeking to trace their histories very difficult. The Morag Tong, according to most scholars, have been a facet of the culture of Morrowind almost since its beginning. After all, the history of Resdain, the ancient name of Morrowind, is rife with assassination, blood sacrifice, and religious zealotry, hallmarks of the order. It is commonly said that the Morag Tong then, as now, murdered for the glory of the Daedra Prince Mafala, but common assumptions are rarely completely accurate. It is my contention that the earliest form of the Tong additionally worshipped an even older and more malevolent deity than Mafala. As terrifying as that Prince of Oblivion is, they had and have reverence for a far greater evil. Writs of assassination from the First Era offer rare glimpses into the Morag Tong's earliest philosophy. They are as matter-of-fact as current-day writs, but many contain snatches of poetry, which have perplexed our scholars for hundreds of years. Lisping, sibilant hisses, ether's sweet sway, rancid kiss of passing sin, and other strange, almost insane insertions into the writs were codes for the name of the person to be assassinated, his or her location, and the time at which death was to come. They were also direct references to the divine spirit called Sithis. Evidence of the Morag Tong's expertise in assassination seems scarcely necessary.
The few instances of someone escaping a murder attempt by them are always remarkable and rare, proving that they were, and are, patient, capable murderers who use their tools well. A fragment of a letter found among the effects of a well-known armorer has been sealed in our vaults for some time. It was likely penned by an unknown Tong assassin ordering weapons for his order, and offers some illumination into what they looked for in their blades. As well, the mention of Vunura, the island where the Tong sent its agents in retirement. I congratulate you on your artistry, and the balance and heft of your blades. The knife blade is whisper-thin, elegantly wrought, but impractical. It must have a bolder edge, for arteries, when cut, have a tendency to self-seal, preventing adequate blood loss. I will be leaving Vunura in 2 weeks' time to inspect your new tools, hoping they will be more satisfactory. The Morag Tong spread quietly throughout Tamriel in the early years of the Second Era, worshipping Mephala and Sithis with blood as they had always done. When the Morag Tong assassinated the Emperor Raymond in the year 2920 of the First Era, and his successor, potentate Versadushai, in the 324th year of the Second Era, the assassins so long in the shadows were suddenly thrust into the light. They had become brazen, drunk with murder, literally painting the words Morag Tong on the wall in the potentate's blood. The Morag Tong was instantly and unanimously outlawed in all corners of Tamriel, with the exception of its home province of Morrowind. There they continued to operate with the blessings of the houses, apparently cutting off all contact with their satellite brothers to the west. There they continue their quasi-legal existence, accepting black writs and murdering with impunity. Most scholars believe that the birth of the Dark Brotherhood, the secular murder-for-profit order of assassins, was as a result of a religious schism in the Morag Tong. Given the secrecy of both cults, it is difficult to divine the exact nature of it, but certain logical assumptions can be made. In order to exist, the Morag Tong must have appealed to the highest power in Morrowind, which at that time, the Second Era, could only have been the tribunal of Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivec. Mephala, whom the Tong worshipped with Sithis, was said to have been the anticipation of Vivec. Is it not logical to assume that in exchange for toleration of their continued existence, the Tong would have ceased their worship of Mephala in exchange for the worship of Vivec? The Morag Tong continues, as we know, to worship Sithis. The Dark Brotherhood is not considered a religious order by most, merely a secular organization, offering murder for gold. I have seen, however, proof positive in the form of writs to the Brotherhood that Sithis is still revered above all. So where, the reader asks, is the cause for the schism? How could a silent war have begun when both groups are so close? Both assassins' guilds, after all, worship Sithis, and yet a figure emerges from history who should give those with this assumption pause: the Night Mother. Who the Night Mother is, where she came from, what her functions are, no one knows. Karlovac Townway, in his generally well-researched historical fiction 2920, the last year of the First Era, tries to make her the leader of the Morag Tong. But she is never historically associated with the Tong, only the Dark Brotherhood. The Night Mother, my dear friend, is Mephala. The Dark Brotherhood of the West, unfettered by the orders of the Tribunal, continue to worship Mephala. They may not call her by her name, but the Daedra of murder, sex, and secrets is still their leader. And they did not, and still do not, to this day, forgive their brethren for casting her aside. The cobbler who met his end in the Second Era, who saw no end in the war between the Brotherhood and the Tong, was correct. In the shadows of the Empire, the Brothers of Death remain locked in combat, and they will likely remain that way forever.
The Argonian Account, Book 1, by Wageen Yark. Decimus Scotti's Continued Adventures in Blackmarsh, Volume 1. On a minor but respectable plaza in the Imperial City sat, or perhaps lounged, Lord Vanek's building commission. It was an unimaginative, austere building, not noted so much for its aesthetic or architectural design as for its prodigious length. If any critics wondered why such an unornamented, extended erection held such fascination for Lord Vanek, they kept it to themselves. In the 398th year of the Third Era, Decimus Scotti was a senior clerk at this commission. It had been a few months since the shy, middle-aged man had brought Lord Vanek the most lucrative of all contracts, granting the commission the exclusive right to rebuild the roads of Valenwood, which has been destroyed in the 5-year war. For this, he had become the darling of the managers and the clerks, spending his days recounting his adventures, more or less faithfully, although he did omit the ending of the tale, since many of them had partaken in the celebratory Unthrapa roast provided by the Silent Estry. Informing one's listeners that they've gorged on human flesh improves very few stories of any good taste. The Scotty was neither particularly ambitious nor hard-working, so he did not mind that Lord Bannock had not given him anything to actually do. Whenever the squat, little gnomish man would happen upon Decimus Scotty in the offices, Lord Bannock would always say, "You're a credit to the Commission. Keep up the good work." In the beginning, Scotty had worried that he was supposed to be doing something, but as the months went on, he merely replied, "Thank you, I will." There was, on the other hand, the future to consider. He was not a young man, and though he was receiving a respectable salary for someone not doing actual work, Scotty considered that soon he might have to retire and not get paid for not doing work. It would be nice, he decided, if Lord Bannock, out of gratitude for the millions of gold the Valenwood contract was generating, might deign to make Scotty a partner, or at least give him a small percentage of the bounty. Decimus Scotty was no good at asking for things like that, which was one of the reasons why, previous to his signal successes in Valenwood as a senior clerk for Lord Atreus, he was a lousy agent. He had just about made up his mind to say something to Lord Bannock when his lordship unexpectedly pushed things along. "You're a credit to the Commission," the waddling little thing said, and then paused. "Do you have a moment free on your schedule?" Scotty nodded eagerly and followed his lordship to his hideously decorated and very enviable hectare of office space. "Zenithar blesses us for your presence at the Commission," the little fellow squeaked grandly. "I don't know whether you know this, but we were having a bad time before you came along. We had impressive projects, for certain, but they were not successful. In Blackmarsh, for example, for years we've been trying to improve the roads and other routes of travel for commerce. I put my best man, Flessius Tio, on it, but every year, despite staggering investments of time and money, the trade along those routes only gets slower and slower. Now, we have your very clean, very, very profitable Valenwood contract to boost the Commission's profits. I think it's time you were rewarded." Scotty grinned a grin of great modesty and subtle avarice. "I want you to take over the Blackmarsh accounts from Flessius Tio." Scotty shook, as if awaking from a pleasant dream to a hideous reality. "My lord, I couldn't." "Nonsense," chirped Lord Bannock. "Don't worry about Tio. He will be happy to retire on the money I give him, particularly as soul-wrenchingly difficult as this Blackmarsh business has been. Just your sort of challenge, my dear Decimus." Scotty couldn't utter a sound, though his mouth feebly formed the word "no" as Lord Bannock brought out the box of documentation on Blackmarsh. "You're a fast reader," Lord Bannock guessed. "You can read it all en route." "En route to—" "Well, Blackmarsh, of course," the tiny fellow giggled. "You're a funny chap. Where else would you go to learn about the work that's being done, and how to improve it?" The next morning, the stack of documentation hardly touched, Decimus Scotty began the journey southeast to Blackmarsh. Lord Bannock had hired an able-bodied guard, a rather taciturn red guard named Malik, to protect his best agent. They rode south along the Niven, and then southeast along the Silverfish, continuing into the wilds of Cyrodiil, where the river tributaries had no names, and the very vegetation seemed to come from another world than the nice, civilized gardens of the northern imperial province. Scotty's horse was tied to Malik's, so the clerk was able to read. It made it difficult to pay attention to the path they were taking, but Scotty knew he needed at least a cursory familiarity with the Commission's business dealings in Blackmarsh. It was a huge box of paperwork, going back 40 years, when the Commission had first been given several million in gold by a wealthy trader, Lord Zellicles Pinos Ravina, to improve the conditions of the road from Gideon to Cyrodiil. At that time, it took 3 weeks, a preposterously long time, for the rice and root he was importing to arrive, half-rotten, in the imperial province. Pinos Ravina was long dead, but many other investors over the decades, including Pelagius IV himself, had hired the Commission to build roads, drain swamps, construct bridges, devise anti-smuggling systems, hire mercenaries, and, in short, do everything that the greatest empire in history knew would work to aid trade with Blackmarsh. According to the latest figures, the result of this was that it took 2.5 months for goods, now thoroughly rotten, to arrive. Scotty found that when he looked up after concentrating on what he was reading, the landscape had always changed, always dramatically, and always for the worse. "This is Blackwood, sir," said Malik to Scotty's unspoken question. It was dark and woodsy, so Decimus Scotty thought that was a very appropriate name. The question he longed to ask, which in due course he did ask, was, "What's that terrible smell?" Slough Point, sir, Malik replied as they turned the next bend, where the umbrageous tunnel of tangled trees and vine opened to a clearing. There squatted a cluster of formal buildings in the dreary imperial design favored by Lord Bannock's commission and every emperor since Tiber, together with a stench so eye-blindingly, stomach-wrenchingly awful that Scotty wondered, suddenly, if it were deadly poisonous. The swarms of blood-colored, sand-grain-sized insects obscuring the air did not improve the view. Scotty and Malik batted at the buzzing clouds as they rode their horses towards the largest of the buildings, which on approach revealed itself to be perched at the edge of a thick black river. From its size and serious aspect, Scotty guessed it to be the Census and Excise office for the wide white bridge that stretched across the burbling dark water to the reeds on the other side. It was a very nice, bright, sturdy-looking bridge, built, Scotty knew, by his commission. A poxy, irritable official opened the door quickly on Scotty's first knock. Come in quickly! Don't let the flesh flies in!" "Flesh flies?" Decimus Scotty trembled. "You mean they eat human flesh?" "If you're fool enough to stand around and let them," the soldier said, rolling his eyes. He had half an ear, and Scotty, looking around at the other soldiers in the fort, noted that they were all well chewed. One of them had no nose at all to speak of. "Now, what's your business?" Scotty told them, and added that if they stood outside the fortress instead of inside, they might catch more smugglers. "You better be more concerned with getting across that bridge," the soldier sneered. "Tide's coming up, and if you don't get a move on, you won't get to Blackmarsh for 4 days." That was absurd. A bridge, swamped by a rising tide on a river? Only the look in the soldier's eyes told Scotty that he wasn't joking. Upon stepping out of the fort, he saw that the horses, evidently tired of being tortured by the flesh flies, had ripped free of their restraints and were bounding off into the woods. The oily water of the river was already lapping on the planks, oozing between the crevices. Scotty reflected that perhaps he would be more than willing to endure a wait of 4 days before going to Blackmarsh, but Malik was already running across. Scotty followed him, wheezing. He was not in excellent shape, and never had been. The box of commission materials was heavy. Halfway across, he paused to catch his breath, and then discovered that he could not move. His feet were stuck. The black mud that ran through the river was a thick, gluey paste, and having washed over the plank Scotty was on, it held his feet fast. Panic seized him. Scotty looked up from his trap and saw Malik leaping from plank to plank ahead of him, closing fast on the reeds on the other side. "Help!" Scotty cried. "I'm stuck!" Malik did not even turn around, but kept jumping. "I know, sir. You need to lose weight." Scotty knew he was a few pounds over, and had meant to start eating less and exercising more, but embarking on a diet hardly seemed to promise timely aid in his current predicament, and no diet on Nirn would have helped him just then. However, on reflection, Scotty realized that the Redguard intended that he drop the box of documents, for Malik was no longer carrying any of the essential supplies he had had with him previously. With a sigh, Scotty threw the box of commission notes into the glop and felt the plank under him rise 1/4 of an inch, just enough to free him from the mud's clutches. With an agility born of extreme fear, Scotty began leaping after Malik, dropping onto every third plank and springing up before the river gripped him. In 46 leaps, Decimus Scotty crashed through the reeds onto the solid ground behind Malik and found himself in Blackmarsh. He could hear behind him a slurping sound as the bridge and his container of important and official records of commission affairs was consumed by the rising flood of dark filth, never to be seen again. The Argonian Account, Book 2, by Waugeen Yarth, Decimus Scotty's Continued Adventures in Blackmarsh, Volume 2. Decimus Scotty emerged from the dirt and reeds, exhausted from running, his face and arms sheathed in red flesh flies. Looking back towards Cyrodiil, he saw the bridge disappear beneath the thick black river, and he knew he was not getting back until the tide went down in a few days' time. The river also held, in its adhesive depths, his files on the Blackmarsh account. He would have to rely on his memory for his contacts in Gideon. Malik was purposefully striding through the reeds ahead. Flailing ineffectually at the flesh flies, Scotty hurried after him. "We're lucky, sir," said the Redguard, which struck Scotty as an extraordinarily odd thing to say, until his eyes followed where the man's finger was pointing. "The caravan is here. 21 rusted, mud-splattered wagons with rotting wood and wobbly wheels sat half-sunk in the soft earth ahead. A crowd of Argonians, gray-scaled and gray-eyed, the sort of sullen manual laborers that were common in Cyrodiil, pulled at one of the wagons which had been detached from the others. As Scotty and Malik came closer, they saw it was filled with a cargo of black berries so decayed that they had become hardly recognizable, more a festering jelly than a wagon load of fruit. Yes, they were going to the city of Gideon, and yes, they said, Scotty could get a ride with them after they were finished unloading this shipment of lumberries. How long ago were they picked? Scotty asked, looking at the wagon's rotten produce. The harvest was in last seed, of course, said the Argonian, who seemed to be in charge of the wagon. It was now sun's dusk, so they had been en route from the fields for a little over 2 months. Clearly, Scotty thought, there were problems with transportation. But fixing that, after all, was what he was doing here as a representative of Lord Vannick's building commission. It took close to an hour of the berries rotting even more in the sun for the wagon to be pushed to the side, the wagons in front of it and behind it to be attached to one another, and one of the 8 horses from the front of the caravan to be brought around to the now independent wagon. The laborers moved with dispirited lethargy, and Scotty took the opportunity to inspect the rest of the caravan and talk to his fellow travelers. 4 of the wagons had benches in them, fit for uncomfortable riders. All the rest were filled with grain, meat, and vegetation in various stages of corruption. The travelers consisted of the 6 Argonian laborers, 3 Imperial merchants so bug-bitten that their skin looked as scaly as the Argonians themselves, and 3 cloaked fellows who were evidently Dunmere, judging by the red eyes that gleamed in the shadows under their hoods. All were transporting their goods along this, the Imperial Commerce Road. "This is a road?" Scotty exclaimed, looking at the endless field of reeds that reached up to his chin or higher. "It's solid ground of a sort," one of the hooded Dunmer shrugged. "The horses eat some of the reed, and sometimes we set fire to it, but it just grows right back up." Finally, the wagon master signaled that the caravan was ready to go, and Scotty took a seat in the 3rd wagon with the other Imperials. He looked around, but Malik was not on board. "I agreed to get you to Blackmarsh and take you back out," said the Red Guard, who had plumped down on a rock in the sea of reeds and was munching on a hairy carrot. "I'll be here when you get back." Scotty frowned, and not only because Malik had dropped the deferential title Sir while addressing him. Now he truly knew no one in Blackmarsh, but the caravan slowly grinded and bumped forward, so there was no time to argue. A nauseous wind blew across the Commerce Road, casting patterns in the endless, featureless expanse of reeds. In the distance, there seemed to be mountains, but they constantly shifted, and Scotty realized they were banks of mist and fog. Shadows flitted across the landscape, and when Scotty looked up, he saw they were being cast by giant birds with long, saw-like beaks, nearly the size of the rest of their bodies. Hackwings, Cairo Gemulus, an Imperial on Scotty's left, who might have been young, but he looked old and beaten, muttered, "Like everything else in this damnable place, they'll eat you if you don't keep moving. Beggars pounce down and give you a nasty chop, and then fly off and come back when you're mostly dead from blood loss." Scotty shivered. He hoped they'd be in Gideon before nightfall. It was then it occurred to him that the sun was on the wrong side of the caravan. "Excuse me, sir," Scotty called to the wagon master. "I thought you said we were going to Gideon." The wagon master nodded. "Why are we going north, then, when we should be going south?" There was no reply but a sigh. Scotty confirmed with his fellow travelers that they too were going to Gideon, and none of them seemed very concerned about the circuitous route to getting there. The seats were hard on his middle-aged back and buttocks, but the bumping rhythm of the caravan and the hypnotic waving reeds gradually had an effect on him, and Scotty drifted off to sleep. He awoke in the dark some hours later, not sure where he was. The caravan was no longer moving. He was on the floor, under the bench, next to some small boxes. There were voices, speaking in a hissing, clicking language Scotty did not understand, and he peeked out between someone's legs to see what was happening. The moons barely pierced the thick mist surrounding the caravan, and Scotty did not have the best angle to see who was talking. For a moment, it looked like the gray wagon master was talking to himself, but the darkness had movement and moisture, in fact, glistening scales. It was hard to tell how many of these things there were, but they were big, black, and the more Scotty looked at them, the more details he could see. When one particular detail emerged, huge mouths filled with dripping needle-like fangs, Scotty slipped back under the bench. Their black little eyes had not fallen on him yet. The legs in front of Scotty moved, and then began to thrash as their owner was grabbed and pulled out of the wagon. Scotty crouched further back, getting behind the little boxes. He didn't know much about concealment, but had some experience with shields. He knew that having something, anything, in between you and bad things was always good. A few seconds after the legs had disappeared from sight, there was a horrible scream, and then a second, and a third. Different timbers, different accents, but the same inarticulate message. Terror and pain. Horrible pain. Scotty remembered a long-forgotten prayer to the god Stendar and whispered it to himself. Then there was silence. Ghastly silence that lasted only a few minutes, but which seemed like hours, years. And then the carriage started rolling forward again. Scotty cautiously crawled out from under the carriage. Cairo Gemulus gave him a bemused grin. "There you are," he said. "I thought the Nagas took you." Nagas? Nasty characters, Gemulus said, frowning. Puff adders with legs and arms, 7 feet tall, 8 when they're mad. Come from the inner swamp, and they don't like it here much, so they're particularly peevish. You're the kind of posh Imperial they're looking for. Scotty had never in his life thought of himself as posh. His mud and flesh-fly bespeckled clothing seemed eminently middle class, at best. What would they want me for? To rob, of course, the Imperial smiled, and to kill. You didn't notice what happened to the others? The Imperial frowned, as if struck by a thought. You didn't sample from those boxes down below, did you? Like the sugar, do you? Gods no, Scotty grimaced. The Imperial nodded, relieved. You just seem a little slow. First time to Blackmarsh, I gather? Oh, hi-ho, hist-pist. Scotty was just about to ask Gemulus what that vulgar term meant when the rain began. It was an inferno of foul-smelling, yellow-brown rain that washed over the caravan, accompanied by the growl of thunder in the distance. Gemulus worked to pull the roof up over the wagon, glaring at Scotty until he helped with the laborious process. He shuddered, not only from the cold damp, but from contemplation of the disgusting precipitation pouring down on the already nasty produce in the uncovered wagon. "We'll be dry soon enough," Gemulus smiled, pointing out into the fog. Scotty had never been to Gideon, but he knew what to expect. A large settlement, more or less laid out like an imperial city, with more or less imperial-style architecture, and all the imperial comforts and traditions, more or less. The jumble of huts, half sunk in mud, was decidedly less. "Where are we?" asked Scotty, bewildered. "Hixanoag," replied Gemulus, pronouncing the queer name with confidence. "You were right. We were going north when we should have been going south."
Torn journal page. 26th of Morningstar, 4E201. Steepfall Burrow, that's the name of the helm's resting place. I've gone through countless records of caves, dungeons, tombs, almost any kind of hole in the earth. Steepfall Burrow matches the descriptions best. It's near the coast, north, past Solitude. It's a deep, deep place, icy and cold. It must be the place the poem is referencing, too. Tomorrow I'll set out to this cave. I'll keep this to myself for now, so nobody else would be tempted to try to race me there. I bet Nerya would love to steal this revelation from me. When I return with the helm, I'll win recognition from my teachers, and maybe even the Archmage himself. This will be my hour, my finest hour. The Barber. In the market district of Cyrodiil there once was a barber. He was rich and famous, as he had the wealthiest clients ever dreamt of. He was so talented that people were coming from far-off provinces just for a haircut, some of them crossing all Tamriel just for a shave. The Emperor himself called often to enjoy the talented barber's skills. Despite his celebrity, the barber was never happy with his work. He always found something to say on his own work, and this was very frustrating for him. He spent all the spare time he had in training, and more training, always wanting to improve his talents, seeking for ultimate perfection, as he said. But it wasn't enough for him, and the frustration grew. One day, just before the closing of the barber shop, a Khajiit came to him with a special item to sell. It was a pair of golden scissors, supposedly forged by Jigalag, the Prince of Order. And these scissors were supposedly the most precise tool in all of Nirn. The barber didn't hesitate for a second, and bought them, even if the price was ridiculous. Some say 100,000 septums, which is ridiculous. The scissors were the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. In solid gold, with fine inlays of ebony and quicksilver, and all carved with draconic runes. A beauty, wonder, a miracle. The next day he absolutely wanted to try his new acquisition on his first customer. After having made him comfortable, he decided to close his door and make his first try in private. Scissors were exceptional. The haircut was more precise than ever, and the hands of the barber were flying around the client's hair more quickly and easily than ever before. The result was beyond his wildest expectations. But for our barber, it still wasn't good enough. It was better than ever, but he wanted even better still. So he continued to work for hours and hours and hours. Strangely, the client didn't show any sign of anxiousness, letting the barber redo his job again and again and again. 2 weeks later, the barber's neighbors, worried to see the shop still closed and also by the putrid smell coming from it, asked the city guards to force the door and investigate what happened in there. They found the dead bodies of the barber and his customer, probably from starvation and or exhaustion. The captain of the guard noted in his report that he had never seen such a beautiful haircut, but it was a pity that the client never had a chance to show it in public. It is said that the spirit of Duridian the barber is stuck with his client in an oblivion realm of untime, trying to reach the ultimate perfection of the ultimate haircut with the scissors of splitting hairs. The Book of Circles by Friend Arhundum. In the clay smelter you shall build a charcoal fire, of a heat to blacken teeth. You shall add a layer of iron sand upon the charcoal. After 6 yarbands you shall add a layer of charcoal atop the iron. You shall repeat this process, layering iron sand over charcoal for 3 days. After cooling, you shall separate the low-carbon steel from the high-carbon steel. You shall use the low-carbon steel to form the core of the sword. You shall use the high-carbon steel to form the skin of the sword. You shall forge weld, fold, and forge weld Ansalim the skin of the sword, until it attains its needful Kotu Achsea. You shall sharpen the sword skin until it may shave an egg without breaking it. You shall speak the oblation to Ansi, then drink of the purifying beverage of Kotu. Then, Ansalim. Sundas Maxims. Thus on Sundas, faithful ones, do we consider these maxims of the Master. Be as dawn to your ally, and set dusk upon your foe. The 405th strike, the serpent's right fang as it pierces the eye, while swarmed by flies. Favor the flat over the edge. Anger is a crack in the hull that sinks the ship. First blood matters less than last breath. Journey many and many miles, but do not leave the hall of the virtues of war. Discover your foe's habits and discard your own. Do not lose the melody in the rapture of one triumphant note. Teardust Maxims. Thus on Teardust, faithful ones, do we consider these maxims of the Master. The sword is the self. Its edge is the mind. To shed the mantle of fears, to cast it upon your enemy. Shouting to halt the sands drifting only leaves you hoarse. Prepare to pay for victory in blood, but do not waste a drop. The victor's tempo grasps his opponent's and devours it. The 79th strike. The spear of the fisherman sharpened at daybreak. Live and die in every moment of battle. Fredas Maxims. Thus on Fredas, faithful ones, do we consider these maxims of the Master. When your foe takes his ease, make him toil. When your foe is full, remind him of hunger. When your foe seeks his bed, wake him. When your foe longs for home, keep him in the field. When your foe is ready to take the field, keep him at home. What your foe prepares for you, do not taste. What your foe does not prepare for you is a banquet laid out on a golden table. Loredas Maxims. Thus on Loredas, faithful ones, do we consider these maxims of the Master. Train your opponent to make the wrong response. The worst action executed with vigor is superior to the best action executed timidly. A thrust is elegant and a cut is powerful, but sometimes the right action is a headbutt. The high guard is most suitable for feints and crossovers, but mind your netherlimbs. Your opponent's sword is not your enemy. Watch your opponent, not his sword. Perfection in the 8 basic cuts is critical, though you will never use them in battle. Closed line is not open. Mastery of discipline. In the season of life in which I passed through the rain's hand, more than 90 duels did I face to prove myself invincible. I learned the 38 grips, the 750 offensive and 1800 defensive stances, and the 9,000 strikes that I would practice for all my future days. With Onsi's blessing, the sword singer must do the same to achieve mastery of discipline. Mastery of devotion. In the season of life in which I marched beneath the sun's height, before the power of the gods did I kneel. I dedicated myself wholly unto the spirit of the sword to forge my shahai, which I would wield for all my future days. With Tall Papa's blessing, the sword singer must do the same to achieve mastery of devotion. Mastery of wisdom. In the season of life in which I was exposed to the hearth's fire, into deep contemplation did I withdraw, to ponder the nature of truth, to sharpen my mind as my blade, and to find the principles I would honor for all my future days. With Tava's blessing, the sword singer must do the same to achieve mastery of wisdom. Mastery of sacrifice. In the season of life in which I shivered from the frost's fall, so did I find myself called upon to cast aside the notions of my destiny that I had deemed true. I left the land of my home, to which I did not return for all my future days. Under Satakal's ever-changing influence, the sword singer must do the same to achieve mastery of sacrifice.